finally we have something about Sonic Frontiers to talk about. So Sonic the Hedgehog channel as well as IGN have shared kind of a teaser trailer thingy, 40 seconds of actual gameplay footage from the game, and they have revealed that IGN would be providing a month-long coverage of Sonic Frontiers, giving us more information throughout the month. But today we're just gonna focus on those 40 seconds of a small trailer. I will share my opinions. There are some things I absolutely love, and some things I have speculated based on previous trailers as well that seem to be getting more and more confirmed, which I'm quite happy about. And there's some small minor things that make me be a little bit cautious. We're gonna cover all of it in this one. Hopefully it won't take long. So starting with, I have a huge list over here after going through everything. First off, the music in the teaser trailer, it feels absolutely lovely. It has that nostalgic tune to it. You know, it's not those blasting, super energetic Sonic tunes, but there's something Sonic about the tune itself. Reminds me of some of those calmer songs we had throughout the majority of the games. It really does feel open, it feels fresh, but nevertheless I'm still expecting a whole lot of bangers from this game, as we can always expect from a Sonic game. We don't count Sonic Boom. Now going into the actual gameplay itself, from what we have seen in the 40 seconds of course, the open world feels very expansive, filled with lush greenery as well as flowers, makes it look absolutely gorgeous if you ask me. Seemingly, as I have previously speculated, we don't see a lot of platforming elements, if any. So I got some things to talk about that. First off, fan games love doing this, ever since games like Unleashed and Generations, where we finally nailed that perfect sense of speed, but ended up having more or less a very linear path to follow. A lot of these fan games have been trying to bring Sonic into an open world environment, and well, they do that open world aspect very well. What fan games don't have, despite all the criticisms towards Sonic Team, what they end up creating does not feel focused with a single vision for their game, whereas Sonic Team's games have always had a clear vision to follow through, with the exception of Sonic 06, but that's an entirely different thing. So whenever we had these fan games with huge, expansive open worlds, they also felt very tacked on platformers. There were like constant platforming elements in the open world just to be an annoyance, just to have that platformer feeling. What I love about what I'm seeing from Frontier so far is that it's not trying to be a platformer. It doesn't even have any platforming elements from what we have seen of the overworld, and that is something that really gets me excited, because at its core, Sonic and platformers are like completely different things. They are opposite ends of the spectrum. If you try to go for platforming, you become, slow, sluggish, or in the case of Sonic, you usually end up being a very non-precise, slippery platforming. And if you go for speed, it's just reactions. There is no platforming to follow through with. There is a middle ground where I feel like the adventure games were the best at, but when you go for that middle ground, you don't satisfy the platforming fans, nor do you satisfy the speed fans, and you end up being somewhere in the middle. It's nice, it's decent, but it doesn't give you that thrill one or the other way. So seemingly getting rid of platforming, that is huge. That is something I am absolutely behind, and I am very excited to see what comes out of it. I talked a bit about how the world looks. It looks very green, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Those flowers, those architectures, and the overall design and feel of the world, it feels absolutely wonderful. A minor gripe, some of these shots seem to have quite a low draw distance, or at least low distance for showcasing detail. That gets me a little bit concerned. These are supposed to be dev environments. They likely have the horsepower to show how far they can properly render things. So that is something to keep your eyes on. It's the usual thing. It's a game in development. I cannot exactly criticize it at this point, but it's something to follow as to how it pans out, because with things like Generations or Unleashed, you could have great draw distances because the game was kind of cheating you with a hallway. You know, when you go to rooftop run, you have all these buildings right next to you, obscuring everything to the sides. So the horizon was always quite clear because there was nothing behind the buildings to render. You know, it was kind of cheating the engine to give you a sense of distance rather than width. With an open world, we don't have that. We see everything to the right, we see everything to the left, we see everything into the distance. So that overhead is definitely lowered. However, it's been 2 generations since the release of Unleashed. I think this should be something we can reasonably expect to see that detail and texture rendering quality far off into the distance, at least for higher quality machines. In the scene where Sonic is going through the ring thingy, doing whatever it is it's doing, we see the usual bumpers, we see some rings on the bumpers, but they only seem to be like an accessibility option just so you can jump that little cliff, because Sonic's own jump wouldn't be able to make it. It doesn't look like a platforming thing at all. As I mentioned, it seems like the platforming has been completely gotten rid of, which I am very happy. Completely is a bit too much, but mostly gotten rid of, which I am really happy about and intrigued to see more. The ring thing itself that Sonic is powering up, it has that question mark. Maybe if it's an open world RPG like game, it may be a quest thing, it may be a mystery that we're trying to solve, especially with those rock formations nearby. It does remind me a lot of those Genshin's 3 rock thingies that you smash and it gives you a chest. No idea what to make of it, it just reminds me of that because of the formation itself. But it's probably tied to it, and it's gonna be interesting to see what this open world will have. You know, we are not used to this in the Sonic games kind of thing. We just usually have a very linear gameplay, but when you have an open world, you need to fill that open world with interesting things, and this appears to be one of those interesting things, whatever it may be. We have the techno-organic looking mobs. We have seen a bunch of them. We have seen 2 small ones and 1 large one, all of which seem quite interesting, intriguing in terms of what their concept is, because, you know, when we have Eggman, it's actual proper robots, mechanical looking robots. These ones, they look futuristic, kind of dystopian, but also organic. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of it, especially with that theory that the giant robot we have seen in one of the earlier trailers was Amy, or something like that, and the official account just shitposting as a reply just fueled that entire fire. But we'll see what comes out of it. The enemy design I genuinely love. Looking forward to learn more about them, because we know absolutely nothing about the game's story so far. I mean, we barely know anything about the game so far, but once we get some more story reveals, hopefully that's gonna be a little clearer as well. We have seen none of Sonic's friends so far as well. We have heard some of them, including Amy, but that was pretty much it. The world looks gorgeous, but it looks absolutely desolate, and some mystery is behind it for sure. But going back to the gameplay itself, again, we have a more action-oriented game coming towards us. It reminds me of Shadow's gameplay from Sonic 06, but much more varied. Not that shallow, much more varied and exciting, so to say. You know, fits this open world aspect of this game. We seem to have a very varied moveset, which makes me think there's gonna be skill trees and upgradables. We see Sonic circling around a mob to create a tornado, very Sonic Heroes-y, by the way, and then just lunging at it with homing attacks. We see those bubble bot-like thingies. Sonic is just going ham with the kicks and stuff. And then, of course, we see the large mob that we seem to be baiting it for a stomp and then climbing on top of it with a rush, and then just attacking its core. So all of which just screams variety. When I say variety, I always go to Werehog, but it looks better than Werehog as well. This combat style, this fast-paced, you know, zip-zapping around and doing those fast-paced attacks, it does feel like Sonic, and I think that's a good thing, you know? It's not just rush through the open world, getting some activities like this, spicing things up, let's say. It's always a good choice for Sonic, otherwise just breeze through everything. And let's be real, while it is extremely fun to breeze through everything, it leads to a short game in the end. But again, throughout all of these, if you check the background, you never see platforming related elements. I keep going back to this aspect that we are seemingly not having any platforming, because I really feel like that's as like the next major step for Sonic, and I really do hope they can pull it off. We see a lot of rails in the back around the buildings and all that kind of stuff, but they just seem to be for transportation rather than any kind of platforming related thing, so that's a bit of an interesting thing. And when it comes to a skill tree, of course, it's always a concern how expansive the skill tree is going to be and how much enjoyment it is going to bring over time, rather than letting you have some enjoyment from the beginning of the game. You know, it's always, in the case of Unleashed, you just start really slow and then slowly speed up and get that sense of speed. Or a better example would be the storybook games, you know, things like Sonic and the Secret Rings. They are dreadful to play the moment you start the game, and you have to unlock that enjoyment over time, and I don't think that's a good way to approach a skill tree. The best way to approach a skill tree is easing people into the game while making sure your starting game is good from the get-go. So I hope they nail it. From the looks of it, since we're getting an action RPG like game, we're bound to have somewhat of an upgradable scheme, and I hope they can implement it properly rather than it being a slog, because we don't have the best experience in regards to RPG-like mechanics in Sonic games. Last but not least, I saved this to the last, mainly because I didn't make a lot of Sonic content in the recent time, and I don't want to scare new people coming in for the Sonic content by just plastering my complaints at the beginning. They're really not huge complaints, I can assure you on that. So, going through, first off, Sonic's movement kinda reminds me of Sonic Forces a bit, which is, I'll be honest, it is concerning me slightly. His movement appears to be a little stiff. Of course, we barely saw anything. I'm literally just basing this on the very beginning of the reveal trailer where Sonic is slightly turning to the right. His movement feels stiff compared to something like Unleashed or Generations, but there's a whole lot more to see. But the way he turns to the right, it just reminds me of those... Remember those sections where Sonic Forces had very tight curves, and the game was literally on rails for those curves. If you moved anything with the thumbstick, you would just be going off the rails on your own, and you had to hold nothing but boost, and the game would just turn you to the right or to the left for the curve. It kind of reminded me of that feeling I had, only visually speaking, of course, and that is something to be cautious about. It's very minor, but it's bugging my mind way too much for what it is. You know, in the end, it's an open world game, it can't be on rails, right? Of course, we see no boost aura in that scene. Maybe it's just that we're not boosting, but the screen blur feels like we're boosting. I actually like this approach because the aura was something that obscured the screen and Sonic's model a bit too much. In fact, when I was playing Generations, I often used a mod to remove that aura, just make it sparkle a bit as we were boosting, and I really like that, and I do hope we still have the boost and we don't have a boost aura at all. I do like that aspect. Why is this in the complaint section? Okay, an actual complaint. I really don't like the Lost World Forces Sonic model that they have. I really do prefer the Unleashed Generations model, where Sonic is a whole lot more athletic rather than this small chibi somewhere in the middle between Unleashed and, you know, Adventure models. I don't like that. I really do prefer Unleashed. I do prefer Adventures as well, just in the middle. That I don't like it. Admittedly, this one looks a little better. Not sure what it is exactly. It's just ticking the right box in my mind compared to the previous ones. But still, just give us back the Unleashed model, please. Okay, my largest complaint, as much as I can have from such a short visual presentation. Please, just fix the rail movements. I have no idea what has changed since Unleashed and Generations, but ever since with Lost World, there's something very wrong with the rail movements. I mean, one can include colors in there as well, but colors was held back by the limitations of the Wii when it was created, so I can excuse it despite the fact that that's not an excuse. But come on, fix the rail movement. Just give us that lean in, proper lean in, you know, give that weight into the rails and the act of grinding. What is that rail changing? That's just not good. Fix the animation, please. I want the proper rail movements back. You did it 1.5 decades ago with Unleashed. You did it perfect. You emulated it perfectly with Generations. It was the same thing running, but come on, bring it into this new engine. Almost 20 years. You can do it. We have the technology. I believe in you, Sonic team. Just give us proper rail grinding animations, please. Thank you. But that's pretty much all I had to say on the Sonic Frontiers kind of sort of gameplay reveal teaser sort of stuff. Again, we're gonna have a whole lot more info throughout the month from IGN, so stay tuned to them. Or if you don't want to stay tuned to them, just stay tuned to me, because once in a lifetime I get to have proper Sonic the Hedgehog coverage again on my channel with a proper stream of news coming my way. Hopefully, that is what I'm hoping for, because I really did miss covering Sonic the Hedgehog content. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, and I will see you all next time. Huge thanks to my patrons as usual, and well, until then, stay cool.